It's a crime story in the headlines this week, fit for a movie plot. What began as a missing persons case in New York City has become a bizarre cross-country tale of deception, murder, and money. At the center of it all, a mysterious and possibly dangerous twosome, a mother and son, grifters, some call them, con artists, living on their wits and their charm. They're in jail, prime suspects in the disappearance of a wealthy Manhattan widow. And today the question is being asked, who are Sante and Kenneth Kimes? How did they come to cross paths with a trusting widow? As correspondent John Miller discovered, the New York encounter was apparently no accident.
This is the east side of Manhattan. The finest restaurants, cafes, and designer shops. The price tags here have big numbers, but the real buyers rarely look. To millionaire widow Irene Silverman, this was home. A former ballerina with the Radio City Music Hall, friends say the 82-year-old Silverman had retained her youthful energy and dramatic flair.
She was effervescent, funny, generous, bright red hair, and a personality to match. She really was awfully cute.
Silverman was well known in the neighborhood and one of the few people who took in tenants. It wasn't really for the money. No, she seemed to collect interesting people, like musician and band leader Peter Duchin.
That she, as a landlady, was terrific and knew exactly who came in and out of that building. She wasn't prying. She just thought that in her universe, which was this house, she should know everything that goes on. And she did.
It was last month that people in the neighborhood noticed a new face in the shops and at the bar at the fashionable Plaza Athénée.
But he just fit in very well. It was like he was dressed nice. He looked like something straight out of The Great Gatsby.
In his early 20s, the newcomer told everyone his name was Manny Guerin. According to police, he spread the word. He was looking for a place to live. Money was no problem, and he had the best of references.
You know, you can slip in these days. If you dress nice and look well, you can slip in.
Which somehow the stranger did. Dropping names and talking fast, he convinced Silverman to let him move in. She agreed to check the handsome stranger's references later.
He must be one heck of a con. I mean, this guy has really got to have something going for him.
Silverman's friend, Janice Herbert, says there was trouble almost from the start.
She was upset, angry at this tenant, and wanted him out of the house. She didn't trust him. What is he doing in there? Drugs? Well, she didn't know, of course, what he was up to, but he smelled a rat.
Police say that on the morning of Sunday, July 5th, a maid in the house heard Silverman arguing with her new tenant. She wasn't seen for most of that day, and when Silverman didn't return by the evening, her staff called police.
Police on the Upper East Side tonight are asking, where is wealthy widow Irene Silverman?
By the next day, her disappearance was making headlines. At first, the police thought they had a simple missing persons case, but after finding blood on the sidewalk outside her house, they turned their suspicion to that new tenant going by the name of Manny Guerin. The police wanted to talk to Guerin, but he, too, had vanished. If investigators had known who Manny Guerin really was, they might have been even more concerned. His real name was Kenneth Kimes, and police across the country had been tracking Kenneth and his mother, Sante, who uses 21 different aliases, in a series of con games, frauds, a disappearance in the Bahamas, and even a murder on the West Coast.
It's a Grisham novel, 20 different players and 5 different plots, and the only different thing is this one's real.
Utah District Attorney Scott Burns says the list of allegations against the Kimeses is growing by the day.
There's the money leaving Las Vegas to the Bahamas, and I hear from various sources that somebody's dead there.
Police say it's classic Sante Kimes. If crime is her business, then her motto appears to be, no job too small. On her record, a rap sheet going back to 1961, arrests for stealing everything from mink coats to cars to even lipstick.
She would be perhaps a classic study as a sociopath, a person who has no concern for others.
I would describe Sante as kind of a sorceress. She had that strange appearance with the high black wig and the painted eyebrows and the pasty makeup. How did he get those documents?
Attorney Douglas Crawford defended Kimes in her most bizarre crime, keeping maids as slaves in her home.
The allegations were that they were forced to work 19 to 20 hours a day for no pay.
Crawford says Kimes could have easily afforded to pay the maids. Her husband, Kenneth Kimes Sr., was a millionaire motel owner and high roller. They had lavish homes in Hawaii, Las Vegas, and California, where the maids were kept under lock and key.
There were allegations that Sante Kimes actually physically tortured them by sprinkling boiling water on them, allegations of being burned with an iron.
And more. Listen to some of the maids.
She was really mad and she started hitting me with some hangers.
When she hit me later, she hit me with her fist.
And the front gate would be locked, so we couldn't leave.
In 1986, Sante was convicted of involuntary servitude and served 3 years in federal prison. Crawford says he was always worried about the effect Sante Kimes was having on her son, Kenny.
Sante was a very domineering person. I would hate to imagine what it would be like to have her as a mother at age 15. That kid didn't stand a chance.
And after his father died in 1994, Sante appears to have chosen her son as a partner in crime, and the alleged schemes were getting bolder. Las Vegas, insurance fraud. Investigators say Kimes transferred the title of her home to David Kasdan, a longtime acquaintance. But investigators say Kasdan was never told he owned the home, or that the Kimes had taken out a $200,000 mortgage and deposited the money offshore. When the house burned in January, investigators believed it was arson.
Our dog alerted to several places, which she only alerts to ignitable liquids, nothing else. So we felt like the most probable one they used was gasoline, and that's what the laboratory did confirm.
And when Chief Arson Investigator Mike Patterson checked property and insurance records, he found something even more strange. The title had been shifted again. The new owner? Robert McCarran, a man from a local homeless shelter.
He kind of went to work for him, and then they kind of enslaved him after that, made him do things against his will.
Patterson wanted to question Sante Kimes, but she was long gone. She surfaced again in Los Angeles, where she and her son rented rooms in a home in this gated community. Their roommates soon became frightened by the strange behavior of the newcomers, particularly the domineering woman.
I have never seen a person that I thought was more potentially dangerous to the people in her presence who sought to do business with her or to become involved with her in any way.
Attorney Larry Hale had been hired to evict Sante Kimes because his client, who lived in the house, was scared.
Now, when you ask how scared she was, I will tell you that she had a friend from time to time in the house who was carrying a 9mm weapon for protection.
Jill Gardner was that friend. And in March, Gardner decided she was going to find out exactly what Mrs. Kimes was up to. She says she searched boxes of Sante Kimes' belongings for clues.
And as each box opened, it was like another huge, oh my God, type event. I found the information on David Kasdan, passport, driver's license, the whole deal. I knew something was up that was very, very wrong.
Wrong indeed. Remember, Kasdan's name had surfaced before in Las Vegas in the arson investigation. And now he'd been found dead, shot in the head, and left in this dumpster near the LA airport. If that wasn't enough, police in Cedar City, Utah were after the Kimeses too, on a complaint from a local car dealer. Sante Kimes had ordered a green Lincoln and paid for it with a bad check. Detective Lynn Davis was investigating.
I get a call from a detective down in LA saying, "Why are you looking at the Kimeses?" Finally, he just says, "Look, we're looking at them too. We've got a real serious case down here that we're looking at them on."
The net was tightening. By June, Sante and Kenneth Kimes were headed east in that green Lincoln. They ended up in New York. And after Irene Silverman vanished, police picked up the trail again when the Kimeses contacted this man back in Las Vegas, unaware he'd become a police informant.
This informant got a call from the Kimeses saying, "We want you to come back to New York. We'll pay your way back. We need you to do a job for us."
That job? Allegedly swindling Irene Silverman out of her luxurious townhouse. The informant set up a meeting with the Kimeses in front of this New York hotel, and when they showed, the FBI moved in and arrested them on the only charge they could, allegedly passing that bad check in Utah. But when they searched Sante Kimes, investigators say she was carrying a passport and a bank card in the name of Irene Silverman. And they say when they searched the green Lincoln, they found more tools of the grifter's trade, including other clues that pointed to connections with the Silverman case.
A 9mm semi-automatic pistol, a number of blank Social Security cards, $30,000 in cash, and about 10 wigs of various colors.
Lots of circumstantial evidence, but the Kimeses claim through their lawyers it's all a frame-up, engineered by the FBI's informant. There is still no sign of Irene Silverman or her body. Just yesterday, police were digging near Giant Stadium in the New Jersey Meadowlands and searching Central Park. And the Kimeses, who police believe may be serial killers, are still sitting in jail on the thin charge of a bad check.
Welcome to 2020, John. Bring us up to date. What happened today?
Well, the Kimeses appeared in court today with their lawyers asking to be released on bail, making the point that this is just a charge of a bad check. And prosecutors, of course, argued against that, saying they had a history of fleeing, that there might be other more serious charges pending. And the judge bought that and did not release them, so they're still being held.
Now, if Mrs. Silverman's body is not found, do the Kimes go free?
Well, prosecutors also have another plan. Their informant apparently sold them more than a dozen guns, according to investigators. So they're going to develop a gun trafficking case based on that information, which will probably keep them tied up in the system for a year.
And in that time, they can continue to investigate the case of Mrs. Silverman.
Yeah, and I think they'll be using all of that until they either find that or find a body.
Well, you'll keep us informed. Obviously, there's much more to this case.